Welcome to Unpacking Terms. The term we're going to be unpacking today comes up in a lot of research as well as pedagogy articles, and it is acquisition. Anytime we unpack or define a term, I think it's important to acknowledge where our views are coming from. What I'll be presenting here is an abridged, simplified version of the great work by many SLA scholars such as Stephen Krashen, Nick Ellis, Bill VanPatten, Michael Long, Lightbown Spada, Patsy Lightbown, and many others. Acquisition is essentially the process of building a linguistic system in your mind, in your head, by making form-meaning connections from language that you see, you hear, you read, and understand. And that's what we would call input. The part of and understand is important because if you don't understand it, you cannot make the form-meaning connection. This process is mostly implicit, meaning you cannot consciously control it. In other words, learning about the language is not what drives acquisition. Now, why do I say mostly? Well, because there is a debate in SLA research regarding whether focusing on form is helpful. We are going to unpack that in a different video. Language acquisition is also a very slow process. You can't hurry love or acquisition. You need numerous prolonged repeated opportunities to engage meaningfully with the language. Meaningfully is key because remember that we need to make those form-meaning connections. And it is also complicated, or perhaps frustratingly complicated. As much as we would like to draw direct connections between understanding language and acquisition, we know that not everything from the input gets acquired. Even if it is understood, that doesn't mean that it has now been acquired. Lastly, I think it's important to distinguish acquisition from being able to communicate in the language, particularly when we're thinking of being able to communicate in the language as output, as producing language, whether it is writing, signing, or speaking. And this is why you may hear colleagues say that output doesn't contribute to acquisition. Well, if acquisition is the process of building the system, we build a system based on data from the input, not from the output. Output is essentially about accessing that system, and that may contribute to developing communicative ability. We are going to be unpacking all of that in another video. And I'd like to close with this wonderful quote by Lightbown and Spada because it is very relevant to language instruction. And that is to remember that language acquisition is not an event that occurs in an instant or as a result of exposure to a language form, a language lesson, or corrective feedback. In a nutshell, acquisition is a lifelong journey. It requires time, commitment, and patience. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.